So I've talked about this on my channel multiple times. I talked about how the Switch is one of the best selling consoles right now on the market. It's already close to, I think, like 15 million units, and as time goes on it's just going to keep selling and selling and selling units. The whole concept of the Nintendo Switch is just really great. They really had the best idea they could have ever done. They pretty much combined their mobile team with their console team, so no longer do they have like a dedicated handheld and a dedicated console. They pretty much combine both of them, and they have a hybrid system where you can play your games on the go, and then when you're at home you can play your games on the TV, and that was the best idea Nintendo had. Now Nintendo is thinking about actually making the Nintendo Switch last around 6 years, so the cycle for this thing is going to be about 6 years, and honestly I can see Nintendo actually stretching out the Nintendo Switch to a 6-year life cycle. I don't see why not. This thing is selling really well. The whole idea of the Nintendo Switch is really well. Overall, I can see this, and would I want them to drag it out 6 years? I personally wouldn't mind if they dragged the Nintendo Switch out for 6 years, just because the Nintendo Switch is one of the best gaming ideas that a company could have ever made, and I absolutely love the Nintendo Switch. Why do you think I talk a lot about the Nintendo Switch on my channel? Because I just love the whole concept of this idea. I really do truly think this might be the future of gaming. It's hard for me to really imagine a world now where we just have a dedicated console that just strictly plays games. That's what's so appealing about the Nintendo Switch. You can play the games how you want to play, and that's what Nintendo has planned. They have planned to make the Nintendo Switch last at least 6 years. They have, apparently according to the company, they have a lot of ideas headed to the Nintendo Switch. Of course, we have Labo coming to the Nintendo Switch, and who knows what the future of the Nintendo Switch is going to bring. Overall, it looks like the Nintendo Switch has a very bright future, and that's what Nintendo wants to do. And take a look at what Nintendo had to say about them dragging the Nintendo Switch out for a 5 to 6 year life cycle. When you think about what can be done with the Nintendo Switch as a device that can be taken on the go and that every person has in their hands to play, you realize it has many features not available on any other hardware to date. Nintendo also has a system in place whereby the software developers focus on these hardware features in their development efforts for the continuation of the Nintendo Switch business. Up until now, the hardware lifecycle has trended at around 5 or 6 years, but it would be very interesting if we could prolong that life cycle, and I think you should be looking forward to that. So as you can see right there, they think it's actually possible to drag out the Nintendo Switch to 5 to 6 year life cycle. Like I said again, I can see Nintendo actually dragging this thing out. There's no reason to not drag it out if it's selling really well, developers are on board with the system, and things like that. And I remember I think the 7th gen consoles, the Xbox 360 and PS3 had a very long life cycle before the next iteration of consoles came out on the market. So I don't see why they wouldn't want to drag this thing out. Unless it's failing, then that would be really the only reason they would want to chop this console off and start a very new console. But right now I don't see them chopping it off for at least 4 to 5 years. So that really does tell you something of the success of the Nintendo Switch. But there is one thing that may stop the Nintendo Switch from being a really big success 5 to 6 years down the road. A lot of people, not just me, are saying that the Nintendo Switch will need some kind of refresh going on into the future. And I'm one of those people that might bite my words later, but I'm one of those people that truly think the Nintendo Switch will need a refresh in the future, just like the Xbox One X or just like the PS4 Pro. I think it does need a midlife upgrade, because I think the processor in this thing is not going to be strong enough to actually get a lot of these third-party games on the Nintendo Switch. If you look at the Nintendo Switch right now, the Nintendo Switch is already behind the base PS4 and Xbox One, and of course you already guys know that the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro are already out there, so it's even farther behind when it comes to power, when it comes to powering these games. And if the Nintendo Switch stays the way it is for 5 or 6 years, if Nintendo has planned for the system to stay out that long on the market, I just don't think it'll be that relevant, because the only reason I think a lot of people are buying this system, as well as the fact they're not Nintendo gamers. Sure, you have the Nintendo crowd who's actually buying the Nintendo Switch, and I'm one of the Nintendo fans that will buy the Nintendo Switch whether it has good third-party support or whether it has bad third-party support. I'm here for a lot of the Nintendo exclusive games on these Nintendo systems. That's primarily why I buy these Nintendo systems. But a lot of people see the Nintendo Switch as a good system to play third-party games, and a lot of developers are jumping on board. And when a lot of these people see a lot of their favorite third-party games on the Nintendo Switch, they gravitate towards the Nintendo Switch just because the Nintendo Switch has them, and the fact that it's not like the Xbox or the PlayStation where you're stuck at home. You can play the games however you want. Sure, these games don't look as good or they don't have the same frame rate. They're still very capable games on the go. Like we have Doom, Skyrim, we have Payday 2, which is coming out. We just have a lot of good third-party support for the Nintendo Switch, and I think that's why also some gamers who aren't normally Nintendo gamers see the Switch has a lot of value, just because they can take some of their favorite third-party games on the go, and that's why they're gravitating towards the Switch. But if Nintendo drags the system out for 5 to 6 years and they don't make a refresh on their hardware, then I think a lot of third-party developers won't want to jump on board, just because by then I think we'll be on like an Xbox 2 or maybe the PS5 by then, and then you can see the Switch will even be way farther down in power compared to the competition. And then when these games are coming out for, let's say, the PS5 or the Xbox One X2 or the Xbox 2, whatever they call it, then they won't want to port these games to the Nintendo Switch, because they'll see the Nintendo Switch at the current hardware power, and they'll be like, we're not going to develop games for the Nintendo Switch. It's going to take us too much power to downgrade these games to the aging Nintendo Switch processor. We're not going to put them on the Nintendo Switch. We're just going to keep them on these current gen consoles. But if Nintendo does make a mid-generation console, a new Nintendo Switch with much more updated specs and things like that, then developers may be like, well, yes, it has more power than it did before, and even though the PS5 and the Xbox 2 is out, we'll be able to make games for the we'll be able to make games for the new Nintendo Switch, or whatever they call it, the midlife cycle. And then since these third-party games are being developed for the Nintendo Switch, then of course more people may buy it, or these people who are already playing their old Nintendo Switch may say, yeah, we'll buy the next Nintendo Switch, because we know third-party developers are going to be on board with this new Nintendo Switch, and there's going to be games out there. And also, some people may abandon their Nintendo Switches as well if they don't see enough third-party support, and that may not continue to happen if we don't get a midlife generation upgrade for the Nintendo Switch. Now again, I could be wrong about this, and Nintendo may never actually make a midlife cycle to the Nintendo Switch, and we never may see a Nintendo Switch with a new processor and more power. We may see a new Nintendo Switch, but it may not have new processing power. It may just be like more slimmer and things like that, more battery, more features, but not actually new processing power. Then I could be wrong. So who really knows what Nintendo has in store? But Nintendo wants the Nintendo Switch to at least last around 5 to 6 years. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.